Welcome to the Weights and Plates podcast. I am Robert Santana, and I am your host, along with a special guest today, Gretchen Geist. Would you like to re-welcome yourself to the show? Say hello to the audience.
Hi, I'm here.
Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
You were with us, how long ago was that? 3 months ago? 4 months ago?
It was in December.
Wow.
It's now June.
Shit.
Yeah.
Where's the year going? It's been kind of blending together.
I don't even know. It's just flying by.
Well, today we got to come up with a topic. Yeah. We have a lot on our minds here. So last episode, I introduced a topic that kind of pertains to you and what you've been doing. I talked about how the general public doesn't find minimalistic training palatable.
Yeah.
And I think you have a lot more in-person experience with this than I do.
That's true.
So I think this would be a good thing to talk about because I'm going to talk about it more and more.
Okay.
In the last episode you talked about your background, my background. We're serious trainees. We always have been. You're a lifter at this point. I'm a lifter at this point.
Yep.
We're very focused on this one physical attribute, this one type of training. You got runners who run year round, and this is secondary to them. Cyclists, same thing. We got BJJ people, all sorts of different athletes, whether they are recreational or, competitive in a league, club, or collegiate level. But then you have the average person that walks in the gym and typically wants to change their appearance. That's often what they're coming for. They're either too fat, too skinny, you name it, right?
Yep.
And they don't fully comprehend the muscle mass side of the equation. Would you say that's an accurate statement?
I would say that's mostly an accurate statement, although I think with the current MAHA movement, people are much more aware of using exercise for health benefits and longevity. We all love that word. I kind of cringe a little inside when I say it, but it's really an accurate term. So yes, I think there's 3 reasons people come to a gym. It's to look better, to improve their health outcomes, and for mental health, to blow off steam.
Right.
So I think, yes, the large portion of people coming into the gym are trying to look better, either put on muscle or lose fat. But I think more are like, hey, I need to. I touch on bone density so much. If I have a woman in front of me, I'm even a younger woman, you need to be putting on bone density now for the future. But yeah, people are looking to improve health outcomes with exercise.
You're working on your bone density right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't.
At this moment.
Oh. Thanks for that plug, y'all. Raw milk. It's the best.
She just trained and, we train heavy here. So for those of you who are unaware of this, bone density is sensitive to intensity. It's more responsive to heavier weights. And you can't lift heavier weights with isolation movements. You're going to load the body heavier with compounds, and the volume shit just isn't going to have the same effect. So you just lifted heavy, and now you are drinking a high calcium beverage.
Love it.
Look at that.
So I don't know if I told you this, but I don't think I did. Okay, this will be fun to tell you on the podcast. Okay, so I started doing these presentations at work, and people can sign up for them and hear me talk for 50, 55 minutes. I basically walk people through why do people come to the gym? What are the different things we can do? What is the best way to accomplish these things? And point it all back to training for strength with compound exercises, using barbells. And one thing I touch on is bone density. Hey, you need to be doing exercises that directly load the spine So that eliminates a lot of things like your dumbbells and your bands. Like those they're not loading your spine directly. So that you need to be using a load that actually compresses your skeletal system, because that's the signal for your body to lay down denser bones. Am I wrong?
I mean, but compression's going to break your back.
Oh, your spine's going to snap in half.
Snap City.
I gave a presentation. There were women there that were like, oh, like and one of them goes to these like little classes and they're doing like, it's like, oh, it's strength. And we were talking about this earlier, how where I work will label everything as, oh, you're going to get stronger, like strength training.
Yep.
No, this is not strength training. It's hard because I have to be careful, but I don't want to be rude to people. And at the same time, like,
yeah, you do.
Hey, I want to, but I have to like, I'm in a setting where I have to like really, you know,
walk the line.
Yeah, I got to walk the line. But I got to tell people the truth. Like, hey, when you're squatting, when you're doing like these little quarter squats with a 5-pound dumbbell in your hands, that's not a signal to your body to lay down more bones, like, or denser bones. It's just not. I relate it to, I don't know if I told you about this analogy. So and this really resonates with people. Mm-hmm. I tell them like, okay, let's say you have a child that's reading on like a 7th grade reading level. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
And you want the child to improve their reading level. Are you going to have that child read Hop on Pop? No. Like, it's not going to improve their reading level. Can they do it? Yes. They can read Hop on Pop over and over and over again, but their reading level will not improve. So, and I tell people it's the same with strength training. You have a certain capacity, and if you're working so far under it, you're not challenging that capacity at all. So that metaphor really, people like, oh, okay. That really relating it to reading.
That's a good way to do it, especially if you have people that have children and have had to deal with these sorts of things, which I'm assuming you do working at a very high-end commercial gym.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, that is true.
What ratio of your clients have kids?
9 out of 10.
Okay, yeah, so a lot of them, right? So that's a pretty good analogy. I think what you're pointing out there is that strength occurs due to specific stimuli.
Yes. And I say you have to, I tell them about the stress recovery adaptation. I'm like, okay, let's go back to 8th grade biology. And then I explain it to them. I have a little chart and it makes sense to them. So I say like the stress has to specifically be designed to challenge the capacity that you're trying to build.
It has to overload.
Yeah.
It has to overload the system. What do they think they need to do when they come in? Do you get a lot of people that already have ideas, or are they completely a blank slate and they're like, hit me?
I think that people believe that they do anything and it's going to help them achieve their goals. Like, I'm at the gym, I'm doing this class, I'm going to see the results that I want to see. And I tell people, hey, anything works for 3 to 6 weeks, depending on who you are as a person, your exercise history, what the thing is that you're doing. Hey, you go from couch to anything, you will definitely see some sort of results.
Novice effect, as we like to call it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I literally tell, I try to avoid like starting strength jargony phrases.
I'd say newbie gains. They've heard that,
Exactly. So, but people understand that. They're like, okay, that makes sense. If you've done nothing and then you do something, you're going to see some sort of change. But they just they don't think much further than like, oh, I'm going to the gym, I'm getting sweaty, my muscles are burning, I'm out of breath, I must be getting the results that I want.
So the common belief is that entering a weight room is going to get you those results.
I think just entering a gym.
Just a gym in general. So they think cardio's making them build muscle. I've been out of that scene for so long, so I'm learning from you. Yeah. I worked with a lot of these types of people online, but the audience that I worked with had consumed content and were a little more informed, even if the information was not the best information. But you're in a commercial gym, so they may not necessarily be informed, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think people understand that they won't build muscle doing cardio, but I mean, I've had women be like, I don't know what to do. And I just go on the treadmill because, like, I know I can do that, or that's something I can do. But they think that, I think the bigger problem is it's any sort of, oh, if I'm lifting a weight, period, then I'm building muscle and getting stronger. Like if I'm doing 20 reps in this bar class of little like micro muscle movements or whatever.
So weights equal muscle.
Yes, I think that is the general thing that people believe. And if they're feeling, oh, I'm feeling this when I do this exercise, they think that it's kind of like the soreness thing.
Or the pump.
Yeah, the pump. So like I feel something, so therefore it must be doing something. I think people fall in that trap a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And, bodybuilders used to promote that in the 70s, 80s, 90s, that the pump was so important. And you can give yourself a pump with very little weight, with pretty much any exercise, especially something that's more localized, like a knee extension, a bicep curl, even hand grippers with the grip work. I get a pump in my forearms, but does that mean that I'm growing? Not necessarily. Yeah, why do people get a pump? Why don't we start there? What is the pump?
So you're doing a lot of reps with a lighter weight. So it's not, you're not challenging the actual contractile components in the muscle to pull harder. It's basically a metabolic thing. It's like, okay, can we provide enough fuel to fuel these contractions that occur over and over again? And then there's waste products. And
so let's be clear, so the bodybuilder bros don't come after you.
They're going to come after me.
The muscle's contracting. So if the muscle's contracting, you are challenging the contractile components. It's in a different manner. So it's more endurance based, I think is what you're trying to say.
They're contracting, but how hard are they having to pull?
How much force is being produced?
Yes, exactly. Okay, sorry, bros. If it's 8 reps, it's not heavy. Like you might feel a pump, you might feel a burn, but you're not actually challenging how much force can be produced by those muscles. So sorry, I'm not sorry.
Mm-hmm. She probably deadlifts more than a lot of bros. You fuckers that are doing 225 or 275 over and over again, she's pulling more than you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that way. It does not have to be that way. Stop listening to the bodybuilders. That is an injection contest. That is pageantry. Okay? When you remove the needles, the steroids, and the superior muscle building genetics, the equation changes.
Mm-hmm. Wait, were you in here when I told that story about the guy with the lat pull down?
You want to tell that? So, I love hearing stories about the commercial gym because, I might drop in there once in a while to do a donkey calf raise or some obscure machine that I like.
Some obscure machine.
I like donkey calf raises because you can do them real heavy. It takes the back out of it and, they'll grow the calves if you're committed. Calf work, it's one of those things where you have to train them in isolation. They kind of stop growing after you've been squatting for a few months.
Sure.
But they're a pain in the fucking ass because you got to do them like a couple times a week.
It's a lot of like slow twitch endurance-y muscles.
It's both.
Yeah.
It's both.
I mean, not that there's not.
Yeah. It's a mix of both. A 50-50 mix of both because it has to hold your ass up, So they have to be strong, but they also have to have a lot of endurance. Where people make a mistake, I'm not going to go into a huge diatribe about calf work, but where people fuck this up is they don't put enough weight on the exercise. If you're going to try and grow your calves, you need to do heavy standing or donkey calf raises to get them to grow. And heavy on calves is like 10, 8s. I wouldn't go under 5.
Right, yeah, no. And for, yes, okay. On like an isolation exercise, it's like a different thing with an isolation.
Yeah, because if you go to 5s or triples, you're going to lose your form and you're going to make it compound because you can't really train those exercises for sets of 5.
Yeah, and there's not enough muscle involved, so you have to.
No, and you're going to fuck the tendons up if you actually try to keep it strict with that kind of weight.
Okay, do you want to hear my story?
Sure. Yeah, let's talk about that. So yeah, the commercial gym. These are the Tales from the commercial gym.
Tales from the commercial gym.
I love hearing these.
So, okay, there was this guy. Let's give him a nickname. Let's call him Joe.
Okay.
It's not his name.
I'm glad you didn't say Bob.
So let's call him Joe. So apparently I'm not going to go into all the nitty gritty details, but this guy like kind of had a crush on me and like was kind of eyeing me. So one day he walked up to me and was like, "Hey, can I get a spot?" And I hadn't.
And you're thinking bench press, right?
I'm thinking the bench press.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So, and I knew this person was kind of crushing on me. I'm like, okay, like whatever. He's a member and I have to like, whatever. I wanted to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
So we walk over to a seated lat pull down machine, like a plate loaded. They had like these handles and you load the plates.
Yep.
And so I was so confused. I'm like, wait, what do I do? I'm like literally wearing my uniform and like, you want me to spot you on a lat pull down? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, so do you want me to like if you start to mitt, like tap your hands down? I literally, please walk me through. And like, I don't know, like officiating sports, like tell me the rules so I can like, whatever. So he does a set, he does like 10. I don't even know how much weight was on there. And I was like, dude, that's like super light. You need to like add weight and do like 6s. And he's like, I don't know what he said. I'm like, what do you deadlift? And he was, okay, for context, he was probably like 5'7". He wasn't particularly heavy or muscular or anything like that. I mean, maybe he was like 160, 170. Like he was like not a giant person. But I'm like, what do you deadlift? And he's like, oh, he said either like 270. I think he said like 275.
Okay.
Now that I'm thinking, like, bro, like you need to get your deadlift up. Like that's going to work your lats a lot harder than this thing is. And I'm like, I think it was like, yeah, I did like 315 for 5 the other day. I think that was right after my PR.
Yeah.
And he's like, whoa. Anyway, I made it clear. I was like, I am like not impressed. I tried to be like tactful, like, oh, like, you know, this would be much better, like give you better results for what you're trying to do with your lats. So anyway.
Did you upsell him?
What do you mean?
Sell him some training.
I mean, I should have.
Yeah.
I should have been like, hey, like, let me help you get your deadlift up to something a man would do.
You want me to show you how to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was.
You could take all the credit. Nobody has to know.
Yeah. Nobody has to know. Anyway, that's like, there's some more details that I eliminated, but that's like the main part of the story.
We got the gist of it.
Yeah. I'm like, I never, like, you don't need a spotter on a machine. You just do it or you don't do it. I was so confused. Like, what are we doing here? There
was a commercial gym that I used to train. This is where I met Andrew the first time before I opened my gym. I used to train at this commercial gym that was kind of like a bodybuilding gym. I'd say maybe, what do you think? Maybe a third of the people there are into bodybuilding, like actual bodybuilding, not fucking around. Yeah. So there's maybe a third of the membership are actual bodybuilders at some level. And there was a guy there that was just a standard personal trainer. You know, he was just teaching people how to exercise with weights, to put it lightly.
Babysitting.
And yeah, he's babysitting. And he had several trainers under him, and they would do these like classes, kind of like group training. And the main trainer, the business owner guy, the face of the company, he had a lot of young girls that he trained, and by young I mean early 20s, you know. And Andrew saw him once having a girl hip thrust, and he was spotting her chin
or her neck, or like,
it was her neck. Oh, I thought he put his hand on her chin.
That's so weird.
Fuck. For all these years, I thought you said that he lifted her chin up.
And that would be like wrong, because
that's the image I've had in my head, was that he was had his hand under her chin and was lifting her chin up. So he was spotting her neck, which is still strange, because it's just, you know, I don't know how much of this you deal with in the commercial gym, because when I worked there, the types of people that would consume content weren't the type of people that spent that kind of money. And this was back in 2010.
Wait, so you're saying the people that consumed legit, good, decent content are not the same people that spend money on training? Is that what you're saying?
I'm talking about the people that leave the hater comments, have online debates, have memorized everything that said bodybuilding guru said, has debunked everything that the opposing guru said. Like, yeah, exactly. Like these guys that are highly active on the internet with content. Back in those days, it was forums. They'd sit on forums and have wars on multiple forums. So like I remember Rip had a guy, a notable guy that he still respects actually. They got into a dispute because he had this kid gain a bunch of body weight, and Rip claimed that, he got his squat up to 320, I think it was, for 3 sets of 5 in under 6 months. I don't remember how long it was. And back in those days, that was not common. As Rip says, powerlifting is a trailer trash sport. And
I can see that.
I think it's changed over the years.
Yeah, not that way right now.
But pre-2014, I'd say, people wore suits, squat suits. For those of you who don't know, this looks like a singlet, but it has elastic properties that help push you out of the squat so you can lift more. They wore bench press shirts that kind of roll your shoulders forward, and you can barely get the bar down if it's heavy. And the down is harder than the up, apparently, from what I've seen. And they wear these suits and shirts to get more weight up, even though it was due to the equipment more than the lifter. But that was the sport in the 1990s and the early 2000s. And then the mid 2010s, it went back to raw lifting, where you can only wear a belt and knee sleeves. Back then, raw powerlifting had been out of favor for 20 years. It fell out of favor in the 1980s, and the equipped powerlifting took over. So the idea that, somebody's, this young kid is getting his squat up 200 pounds in a handful of months was not new, but it wasn't widespread on the internet because a lot of the internet forums were tilted towards bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So Rip posted the video up. The guy conceded because he's an honest fucker. He's just, he's kind of like Rip.
He got too strong. Was that because that was a thing? Like,
no, he didn't say he got too strong. He's like, all right, I stand corrected, but there's no way that half that body weight was muscle. Which I'm kind of on the guy's side over Rip on this one, but it doesn't matter. He didn't look bad, but yeah, you gain fat. Not all body fat gain looks bad, but yeah, he probably, pushed over 20% body fat, if I had to guess, and I don't think he's that large now. I think, now he's a grown man in his 30s, but yeah, I remember that. So it was forums. That guy had a forum, Rip had a forum, then Rip's guys were going on his, and that guy was going on Rip's. And anyways, these people are the biggest pains in the asses. But then what I've noticed is very few of them spend real money on coaching. So forums, well, they're already pretty much irrelevant.
That's true.
Yeah. I miss those days when you go on bodybuilding forums to find information. This is not something you would be familiar with.
Yeah, I was not a forums person.
So that guy, when Rip showed the video, he conceded that Rip was correct. But then he said that he didn't gain that much muscle. And, as I said earlier, probably not, but who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
He looked better. He was stronger. He was more functional.
Yeah.
I don't think we really know how to separate muscle from fat gain, but that's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, it's a whole different series.
So, yeah, exactly. So, tell me about your clients.
Yeah. So my clients, people will ask me like, oh, what's the type of person you want to work with? And I think the answer that people expect is, oh, I want to work with young athletes, or I want to work with women, like some sort of like demographic information. And I tell people, I will work with anybody that has a specific mindset, that understands delayed gratification, that understands that things that are worth acquiring require time and effort to achieve.
Right.
It is wild. I think about my current spectrum of clients, and I have like a 23-year-old recent college graduate up to like an 84-year-old retired, and people in between. So people that came from the couch, people that do other sports and activities. But the common denominator is the mindset. So that's really the person I'm looking for. And that's who I work with best, because those are my values too.
Of course, makes things a lot easier when you find people that want to work hard. Do you screen clients out? Do you turn away business because you don't want to deal with it?
I currently, well, there is kind of this one person that I'm thinking about being like, hey, maybe the group sessions aren't a good fit. Maybe we should just go private. I think people kind of screen themselves out, honestly. But I would love to be able to get to a place where I'm like, oh, like I'm choosing who I work with, and I just like, oh, I don't think you're a good fit. But I'm not in that place right now. So, and honestly, my retention's really good. If I can get someone to train with me and they start seeing the results, they're like, oh, this is legit. This is the real deal.
Right.
And especially with seeing like what other people are doing and what I'm doing with my clients and the logbooks and the progress and coaching, like actual coaching that happens. People can see the difference. So they know. I think like deep down, people know like when, is this really helping me? Am I really doing this? Yeah.
So I guess, why do they want to lift weights? Or are you introducing them to it? What are they coming to you for?
Why does anybody hire a personal trainer? I think everybody like comes in like thinking, I need professional help to achieve X, Y, and Z. And then when I start to, essentially it's like I'm giving a smoke signal to like the right people. Right. And then the right people respond and then sign up and train with me.
You know, when I was in my undergraduate, when I was doing my undergraduate studies, getting my bachelor's at WIU, Western Illinois University, one of my professors put it to me the best. And I have to say, she wasn't wrong. She said, most people that go to a gym want to look good naked and perform better sexually.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's.
Yeah. I learned that. And that's one of the few things in college that I learned. Well, not few. I got to be a little bit kind. I learned a lot of things, but it was one of those practical pieces of information that checks out. Yeah. Most people in the fitness, health, longevity sphere want those two things above everything else.
Yeah.
Then all the other stuff comes next.
That's true. That's a really good point.
And I think the disconnect is they understand that if they're fat, they need to lose weight. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, I think, and you can speak to this, I'm pretty sure a lot of people still believe this, actually. I talked to a lot of non-gym goers, and I've had a lot of people that would probably be at a commercial gym if they weren't doing it online. And, you know, there's still people that believe you can run off the weight. You know, that
totally.
You can exercise, you can out-train a bad diet. And you can't, but, you know, you have that problem. They understand that you can lose fat through some combination of diet and exercise. They try to exercise off the bad diet. It doesn't work, you know, but they understand that there's a diet component. Yeah. And I think it's not lying to themselves. It's more cognitive dissonance. Yeah. You know, they eat crap and then they go back to the diet the day after. And they're like, well, I did so good most of the time, right? But it's like an all of the time deal, you know. That's a whole nother topic. But they understand that exercise and diet will get weight off of them. They may not understand exactly how, but that's pretty firmly understood by, you know, you talk to the average person on the street and you say, hey, man, how do you unfat fuck yourself, you know? I mean, I wouldn't say it like that. I might say, I would say it like that. Who am I shitting? Yeah. How do you unfat fuck yourself? Or, you know, the average person might say, how do you lose weight? You know, and they're going to say, well, you know, you got to run, you got to not eat carbs, you know, like you'll hear all these variations. All these variations of dietary manipulation or exercise manipulation. But then there's very little attention to how you actually build muscle.
True.
And then of the people that consume content related to that, they think you have to train like a bodybuilder who's on a bunch of fucking steroids and who has very good genetics and look like a miniature version of his roided out self when he started out. You know, people look a certain way for lots of other reasons outside of training, you know, and I just did a video on this. I say it all the time, and I'll say it till I turn blue in the face. I'll say it till I go in the grave. Don't put it on my fucking gravestone though.
We will.
You know, these people are born this way. So what I was going to say was the thing that I'm referencing is every single person who lifts weights and is capable of adding weight to the bar or progressing their weightlifting workout for a period of time, you know,
Fair.
2 to 4 months, right, is going to build muscle and get stronger.
Yep.
100% of people that do this will achieve those things, but a much smaller percentage will look like a competitive bodybuilder or fitness model, even if he does everything right.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, you take that same principle and apply it to sports. You know, I mean, how many hundreds of thousands of boys play football and how
Right.
many of them make it to the NFL? I mean,
Right.
and they're, you know, obviously it's got to line up like they got to work hard still, but you got to have the genetics for that. So it's the same with anything.
This is a residual effect of 1980s pop culture, I guess, where, you know, I always think of the movie Back to the Future. Did you ever see that movie?
No, I've
You're not a movie person at all. Fuck,
Yeah,
man.
sorry.
Gretchen is not a movie person at all. You get an F for movie trivia.
Yes, I do. I watched a bunch of movies when you're on a plane and you have nothing to do for like 8.5 hours.
Those are shit movies made in the last 5 years, though.
I saw a couple good ones.
Okay.
It was fine.
They get lucky sometimes.
Yeah, there was a good selection. Anyway, okay, Back to the Future. I'll pretend like I understand the references.
You're killing me. You need to go watch Back to the Future.
I won't.
You need to. You have homework. We're getting close to Back to the Future, by the way, when he travels to the future in the second movie. I'm thinking of Demolition Man. That was 2032.
Is that a movie?
Oh, yeah. And like in 2032, Los Angeles is called San Angeles. You get tickets by automated machines for swearing. Everybody's wearing like robes and gowns. Guns are banned. They have batons, electrified batons, the cops do. They don't know how to fight hand-to-hand combat. They don't make physical contact. Sexual intercourse happens through virtual reality. And I think everything's IVF if you want to reproduce. And then you have so here's where it gets interesting. In the sewer, all the guys like me live. They just have to eat rat burgers because there's no cows. So they're eating rat burgers. Oh, there's self-driving cars in the movie. So the car drives itself. And there's like screens where they talk to people. So a lot of this stuff has started to unfold, which is creepy. If you look up Demolition Man memes,
it's like LA
you'll see,
right now.
They'll say it's a prophecy. Yeah. So to answer your question, the movie was made in 1993, but it starts in 96. So in 96, the cop's going in. He has Sylvester Stallone's the lead. He has body scanners so he can see if there's people alive in the building.
Okay.
You know, then he gets the guy he needs to get, but then the building explodes and they find out a bunch of dead hostages are in there, right? So then he goes to prison. They cryogenically freeze him, and then he wakes up in 2032.
Oh, there's like other movies that have this premise.
Yeah, but this one's 93. So I think, you know, I think that was
See, look,
first.
now I don't need to watch it because you told me everything that happened.
I didn't tell you the ending, so you need to watch it. Anyways, you know, it's becoming a prophecy. There's all these memes everywhere. I forgot. Why the fuck did I bring up Demolition Man?
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. Oh, yeah. So Back to the Future. Where's the fucking hoverboard, though? We didn't get the fucking hoverboard yet. Did the hoverboard come out?
Well, like, you know those, it's like a skateboard, but like.
Yeah, it floats.
Well, like, okay.
The one that they have doesn't float, does
Right.
it?
No, of course.
In the movie, it floats. I want the floating fucking hoverboard. I've been waiting for my entire life. 2015. So Back to the Future happened. They were wrong. Demolition Man was pretty fucking close. The one thing they never explained in the movie was they didn't have toilet paper, and they laughed at him for asking for it. And he said the place where the toilet paper is, they have 3 seashells. They never explained the 3 fucking seashells. There's a scene in Back to the Future where the father tells the son, which is played by Michael J. Fox, he's like, if you work hard, you can accomplish anything.
Okay.
And this was basically 80s messaging, and I think it trickled into the 90s too. And I think the reality of that is if you work hard, you can improve at anything.
Yep.
You know?
Oh, we were talking about genetics with bodybuilding and sports and whatnot.
But, you know, there's a wide belief in this that hard work is the limiting factor to everything. You know, you could work your ass off and get a mediocre result or a below average result in some cases, you know?
It is, obviously.
How many people work hard and aren't rich?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a very good way to put it.
I mean, that's the most obvious because everybody has to work to make a living.
Yeah.
But not every person who works hard is a millionaire, multimillionaire, or billionaire. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I'm not an expert in that area, so we're not going to dive into that. But, there's a lot of people that work hard and don't have anything to show for it.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say don't have anything to show for it, haven't achieved the most extreme of extreme results is what I mean by that. I don't care about pissing people off, but I didn't mean it that way.
Yeah. We don't want to discourage people from working hard.
We want people working hard, but there's a lot of people that work hard and they don't achieve the extreme result and they kill themselves for a lifetime doing one thing or another. And in many cases, because they have to, but hard work doesn't equal first place.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So, and it kind of breaks my heart because I'll see people at the gym and there's one guy in particular, but this could be applied to a lot of different people. They put a lot of effort in their workouts. Yeah. And they're doing it. You can tell they're into it. And yeah. It's like, dude, you did that same workout. You've done that same workout for 4 or 5 weeks in a row. It's not helping you. At the end of the day, physiology is physiology and your body already knows what that workout is, so it's not stressful anymore. So you need to do something different.
You're only capable of accomplishing so much in any area. You can play the guitar and put in countless hours and you're not going to be Eddie Van Halen or Jimi Hendrix or pick your favorite guitarist, right? We understand this in music. We understand this in professional sport.
That's a really good point. Even music, math or physics. I mean, I couldn't be a astrophysicist. I just don't have the brain for that.
No, it has nothing to do with how hard you work or don't work, I think you can understand physics up to a level.
Yeah, of course.
But you're not fucking Elon Musk and these motherfuckers that, are building rockets and shit, Oh, you understand this in so many areas, but when it comes to the gym, for whatever reason, there's this thought that if you aren't accomplishing an extreme result, whether it's deadlifting 700, if you're talking to the power lifters, or being 200 pounds and ripped, if you're talking to the bodybuilders, right? Or having 18-inch arms, if you're talking to the bodybuilders, or doing you don't hear it so much in Olympic lifting because they're actually doing a competitive sport, they understand better. But there's just this belief that you need the right program, the right diet, and hard work, and you can achieve all of those things I just outlined. So if you're around power lifters, if you didn't deadlift 700, you fucked up because that's not even heavy, dude.
Yeah.
That's not even heavy. And you're only pulling 505 for 550. It's nothing, bro.
It's nothing, bro.
And then with the bodybuilders, well, you don't even have big arms. Well, shit, did you see where they started, motherfucker?
Yeah.
That's like looking at somebody who plays basketball all the time and who's, I don't play basketball, but let's say that however they evaluate scoring, that improves, right? And you say, fuck, dude, you're not Michael Jordan. I mean, you're not even Larry Bird, or you're not even LeBron, pick, a top basketball player, right? Look what those guys are doing, you should be able to do at least 75% of what they're doing, you don't hear that when it comes to those things, or if you play the guitar a lot and you're doing shows at a local bar, people aren't going to tell you suck because you don't play as good as fucking Eddie Van Halen,
I think this is an interesting thing to talk about. I think when people get to the gym, they totally don't understand these principles. And I found when I break things down, something I get a lot is oh, I feel awkward, or I feel like I'm not getting it, the movement. And I'm like, hey, if you taught me a dance move, or if you taught me how to throw a javelin, I would look awkward when I did it. I wouldn't get it right the first day or the first week. So, and people are like, oh, okay. It brings it down. I think exercise physiology has not provided good information
No.
to the general population that goes to the gym. Whereas like all these principles are still at play. Like, yeah, this is going to take some time. And yeah, you're not going to necessarily look like this professional athlete, or you're probably not going to get the results of this elite power lifter because of your genetics.
Mm-hmm.
People just, their brain goes dead when they walk into a gym, and they need us to like guide them and bring some common sense and common principles back to the gym.
And I think that's lacking in the industry. You know, people don't want to spell that out. There's this thought that it's all a product of hard work. Hard work improves whatever the fuck you're trying to improve at, but there's no guarantee that you're going to achieve a specific outcome. Mm-hmm. You know, when you compete in sports, there's first place, second place, third place, fourth place, and that goes all the way down, and the number can get rather large, right? Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, again, when it comes to building muscle or lifting heavy weights, they just dump it on, oh, you fucked up. You didn't do the right program.
Yeah.
You didn't work hard enough. You're lazy.
Results may vary.
Yeah.
You know?
Individual results vary. And yeah, sure, a lot of people aren't motivated to lift weights seriously and become lifters. You know, they want to exercise with weights, and that's great because that's better than sitting on the couch. You know, there's hierarchies to this. Becoming a lifter is a commitment. You know, not everybody needs to do it. But everybody should lift. Everybody should squat, should deadlift, should bench press, should press, should do pull-ups. They should learn the power clean. They don't need to train for an Olympic lifting meet necessarily. But I think, you know, I say this a lot on the show, and I've made videos about it. Understanding how to hoist a weight up and catch it is important, because when you have to pick things up in life, sometimes you can't lift them strictly. You know, you have to use momentum to get the weight to a level that you can walk with it.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's a trainable human movement pattern.
Yeah. You can get decent at a clean. You don't have to be great at a clean, but you should know how to use your hips to hoist up a weight. You know, I think that's valuable. But that's, again, we can dive into that in another episode. But, you know, you should do these lifts. You don't need to train them for competition. You don't need to get so big and ripped to compete in a bodybuilding show either.
I feel like bodybuilding just like needs to die. I don't know. That's a hot take right there.
Yeah. She said it, not me. I'm trying to troll less, but you know, it's hard.
Yeah. That was me. I don't know. I don't know. I said this last episode, but I've never seen anything good come out of that. And
well, people lift weights now recreationally. That's what's come out of it.
Okay, that's fair.
But we got to give them credit. Bodybuilding put the weight room on the map.
Fair. Yeah, like that, and CrossFit.
CrossFit put barbells on the map.
Yeah, and
100%. Rip has admitted that himself.
Yeah, 100%.
Bodybuilding got people in the weight room in general. CrossFit got people lifting with barbells. I
think I'm just not the type of person that appeals to. Like, I would rather just...
It's pageantry.
Yeah, and I mean, you're crashing your metabolism. Like, that's how you get lean and dry and you look like that, is like you're crashing all these processes in your body. And I don't know, it's just kind of to look like this weird Greek statue for like 10 minutes on a stage, and you're like this close to like dying.
The Greek statue is not even that lean.
Yeah, that's a good point. Those were like athletes that actually had some body fat on them. Now they were muscular, so
yeah, they're like probably 9 to 12% body fat. You know, they're not walking around at 5 to 8%. You've competed in sports. You've seen it. You've seen people that are just like, the Jesse here is like that. He's like 9% body fat, and he's just 9% body fat. Yeah. The guy's eating 3,500 calories when he's training hard. Right now, he has a torn tricep. So, you know, I had Jesse on the show once. You know, I don't know, for the audience. He's a weightlifting coach here at my gym. I need to bring him on again. I think I'll do him next. If you are familiar with somatotypes, he's the guy who's very lean and very muscular at baseline, and lifting just makes him more lean and more muscular. I mean, you saw him. He's super vascular. Even right now, he's injured and barely training, and he still looks like that. Yeah. He just shrank a little.
I mean, he could leg press. What else? He can't really do anything.
Right now, maybe the safety squat bar, maybe. He's going to try. I know he's going to try.
Yeah, he's going to try.
He's a lifter. He's a lifter. He's going to figure out a way to push himself. But right now, he tore his tricep tendon. He just got it reattached today. Since the injury, he's been finding ways to squat. He finally got into a regular squat with his hands behind his back, He was doing the safety squat bar, and then the injury got to a point where he can hold the bar, so he was squatting. I think he was able to clean.
Okay, this was before the surgery.
Yeah, now he's gotten surgery, but my point is, this guy is like probably 8-9% body fat.
Just hanging
out there. Yeah. And he's worked very hard, so he has more muscle than he would have if he didn't train, if he wasn't a weightlifter. But I bet if he wasn't a weightlifter, he'd still be pretty fucking lean. He just wouldn't be as muscular. Wouldn't be as big, I would say. He'd probably be 10 pounds lighter, and he'd look skinny to everybody else, but he'd have no body fat. So, if you took that guy and tried to train him for bodybuilding, he's 5'6". He could probably be competitive in that sport because he already, without any steroid use, is low body fat, muscular, and highly responsive to strength training. Most people aren't like that.
Yeah. It's a genetic lottery that you got to win.
So when you artificially take your body fat that low, like what you're describing, like for him to do it, we're talking 5 pounds.
Yeah, it's less less effort for someone like him.
Yeah, but most people are somewhere eat a healthy diet, right? 15-18% if you're a guy, maybe mid-20s if you're a female. That's pretty much what I see walking around.
Yeah,
people that are healthy. But to take that down to such a low level, that fucks. It's hard to measure, but that fucks your body up.
Yeah, it does.
It fucks your body up. I think that we just need to bring reality back in the gyms.
Yeah.
While still getting people under a barbell because it really does work the best,
And yeah, that's what I really emphasize. Like, hey, if you want all the things that you want, we got to train. Like, we can't just, there's the office I primarily use. There's a whiteboard in there.
Yeah.
And I drew like the little stress recovery adaptation graph. And then I drew one for so that one's training and then exercise. I have that thing. It's like the graph, but instead of going up, it's just it's flat.
Yeah.
And I wrote next to it, random exercises, random reps, random weights, random sets, random range of motion, no outcome besides completion. So I have a graph that shows it, and it says like exercise versus training, and these things are different. Yeah, I'll explain to people like, hey, if you're not making it harder in some way, you are just doing the same thing over and over again. Like if you're in a class and you only have access to the same equipment, first of all, you're probably not pushing yourself with the equipment that's in there. And second of all, like you're not making progress. You're not making it harder. I literally tell people like, you're doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Like, what is that? That's insanity. So, I think just having someone, and like, I don't have all the answers. And at the same time, there are principles that are always true that I'm just explaining to people. So I'm providing valuable information to the general gym goer. And even if someone doesn't decide to train with me, they're still walking away with like, things need to get harder. If I want these health or aesthetic outcomes, I need to make my workouts harder. If I'm not quantifying them, then I'm basically not going to do that. So there's a lot of, I think just people are so misguided because the general ex-phys personal training certification doesn't teach basic principles.
Those certifications have historically been skewed towards cardio.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And that's because a lot of endurance athletes in the 70s couldn't get jobs. So they started working at universities and they became tenured track faculty at these universities. So then they started doing conducting research studies on endurance performance and how it affects various health outcomes.
Yeah, that checks out.
Because that's where the funding was. First, it was let's study endurance performance and see what type of adaptations occur. This was in the 70s. I'm thinking of George Brooks and those guys. Then later on, there's no money in that. Nobody's going to fund that. you know? So they started looking at how endurance exercise improves various health outcomes and biomarkers. And this went on through the 90s, 2000s, even to this day, right? Well, a lot of those guys are old and retiring now. And the guys replacing them are Joe Weider fanboys of the 1980s and 1990s that were into bodybuilding and want to study hypertrophy. So now we have a bunch of lifting studies, except these studies aren't looking at health outcomes necessarily.
Yeah, and they're done on novices, so anything's going to work.
Yeah, and trained people, that just means somebody with a gym membership. That straight line you're talking about, that's what trained. So listen to what she just said. This is a good point. What she said a few minutes ago was she has a graph on her whiteboard of people doing the same shit all the time and going nowhere.
Yes.
However, you know what they're doing? They're doing the same shit all of the time. They're scanning their key card. They're showing up to the gym. They're exercising. Now you have a study that says we are recruiting individuals who are resistance trained or who lift weights regularly. On the ad, they might use more common language for our study. And then they'll get those guys who fall onto your straight line. And then when they publish it in a peer-reviewed journal, they'll say resistance trained men. They barely gotten the benefits of the novice effect.
Yeah.
They got maybe 30% of it.
Your resistance exercised. I'll give you that. But that's, I was talking with my dad the other day. I trained my dad. He's crushing it. It's great. He's going to be 71 this year.
Congrats to him.
Woo. And we were talking about the gold standard personal training certification and comparing it with what I had to do for starting strength. And he's like, oh, is there no practical for these other certifications? I'm like, no, there is no practical. You literally answer a multiple choice test and get a 70%, and all of a sudden you're a trainer. There is no practical element. So the barrier to entry into the industry it's too low. It's too low. Let me give CrossFit some credit. Because yes, during my 3.5 years, I did their level 1 and their level 2. And the level 1, you had to coach.
There's a practical component.
Yeah, there is a practical component. Now, were you heavily evaluated during that? No, but you had to show that you would give cues to a person doing a class. And then yes, there was a multiple choice test. But the level 2, they evaluated your coaching. Now, I think everybody passed. So it's not like it was extremely rigorous, but at least with CrossFit, they're you have to be giving cues and telling people what to do. At least now, obviously, yeah, their methodology isn't super sound and they made a bunch of stuff up, but maybe that'll get some hater comments too. But at least that element is there.
They're watching you coach.
Yes, there is some sort of practical, you have to be able to do something in order to earn this certification. So yes, that's a much lower standard, obviously, than what we had to do. But at least it is there. There's one that's super easy to get.
You have to have NASM, right? For lifetime?
I mean, probably, but I know a guy, so I don't.
Hope he's not listening.
Yeah.
The only certification I can recall that had a practical eliminated the practical before I went to take that exam.
Interesting.
And that was the American College of Sports Medicine, ACSM. But get this, their practical had nothing to do with lifting. You had to demonstrate that you can perform aerobic exercise tests.
That's silly.
You had to administer these tests that you are never going to administer in a gym.
Yeah. It's just totally useless.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could see why they got rid of it, but at least they evaluated people.
I think, isn't it the CSCS you have to, I know there's an exam.
It's all computer. I took that. You have to have a bachelor's in anything, as long as you have a bachelor's. Rip had his. Rip was one of the first to pass the CSCS because back then it was, it was about strength and conditioning back then. Then the physical therapist took it over in the 2000s, and Rip said that he let his lapse when they published a paper, which I found was published in 2008, that said that there is no difference in 1RM strength, 1 rep max strength. For those, everybody listening knows what that means, but just the most weight you could ever lift. No difference in 1RM strength between bench pressing on a flat bench versus bench pressing on a stability ball. And yeah, when he saw that, he let his certification lapse and he formally sent them a letter.
Isn't it wild? Because if you asked all those peers, like, hey, would you rather shoot a cannon off of a canoe or a aircraft carrier? Like, the answer is so obvious, but yet, we're going to peer review this study. And it's like, I swear, with this industry, like, common sense is just totally out the window. And it's all, and I know, like, you've said this, I'm sure Steph has said this, and it's like, they're all like, it's a good old boys club, and they all like are yes men to each other's research and these studies. And
so it's created 2 camps in the gym business. You got one camp, they believe they can achieve outcomes that require drugs without drugs. With just following the program and the diet of the drug using guy that told them to do it. And then you got people in between that, maybe they don't want to look like Ronnie, but maybe they want to look like some actor who took a few compounds as in steroids. They took some steroids, they trained, the camera did its magic, they got airbrushed and all this other shit, right? So that's how most people in the middle, that's what most people in the middle try to follow. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the corrective exercise physical therapy people that have taught typically educated people that you have to train everything in isolation and that anything heavy is going to hurt you, and that exercise is this really complicated affair.
It's like malpractice. Like, you're broken, you're fragile, you need to do these little, and that's harming. Think of if you get people buying into that and then they're scared to do anything strenuous. It's like your health is going to be in the toilet because
absolutely,
for X, Y, and Z reasons.
Yeah, but that's why we have shows like this,
trying to educate the masses.
Mm-hmm. I think if we make enough of these and somebody else hears it and then they make enough of these, maybe we'll make a dent just as I'm dying.
I'm hopeful for like the Maha thing going on.
Well, Bobby Kennedy lifts.
Yeah, look at him. He's like,
he's probably on testosterone, but
for sure.
Yeah. But he's what, 70?
He bench presses
at least.
Yeah. He can do pull-ups. It's just an amazing, like, our health secretary currently, and then like what our health secretary was. Yeah, no, I'm hopeful because there's more people that like, hey, let's find the root cause. Let's get into preventing disease before it even start.
Yeah, I think we've hammered that to high hell. So, now's a good time to probably close out. More people need to understand this shit in a nutshell. So we'll probably do another episode at some point. But let's wind this down. Thank you for tuning in to the Weights and Plates podcast. You can find me at _Robert_Santana on Instagram or weightsandplates.com. If you are in the wonderful city of Phoenix, you could find me just south of Sky Harbor between 32nd Street, 40th, and Broadway. And come in for a training session. And the gym also has a Instagram page at weights_and_plates. We are on YouTube now, so click and smash that subscribe button. YouTube.com/@weights_and_plates. Thanks for tuning in.